that you would organise for those drivers to be treated in the same way as police or other emergency workers and not be forced to stay at home. But that hasn't been the case, and so there are not enough people to get provisions to all those residents stuck there. But there's a bit of a, I suppose, light today in terms of good news that the official numbers, at least today for the first time since April, have come down. Now I'll give you those numbers. So the symptomatic infections, they're the people who must go to hospital. Yesterday, 1,318 people. Today, 994 people. Asymptomatic cases, if you're officially asymptomatic, it doesn't mean you have no symptoms, just not serious symptoms. You still have to go to centralised isolation, but not a hospital. Those infections, new infections today, 22,384. But that's down from yesterday's more than 25,000. So a little bit of a sign that things might be improving. One official in Shanghai has said that within 10 days, there'll be no new infections outside of those in centralised isolation centres. But with tens of thousands of new cases, it's hard to see how so quickly they'll be eliminated. Well, we'll just have to wait and see, though, if this trajectory does go down. I mean, the cases might just bump up again tomorrow.
And this huge lockdown, the huge problems that Shanghai faces, of course, has a wider impact, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, Premier Li Keqiang, the number 2 leader in the government, has talked about the massive downward pressure on the economy because of this. I'm sure that comes as no surprise to anybody. You imagine you're locking down entire cities. He's also had to tell local governments to stop blockading highways because they're attempting to sort of insulate their communities.
A few moments later.
China's biggest city, Shanghai, remains eerily empty. 26 million people under a massive COVID lockdown, relying on government deliveries, and anger is soaring. Social media showing videos of protests over food and medicine, a supermarket ransacked. At a building where residents have been locked down for 2 weeks, they shout, "We only want supplies. Why are you beating people?" At night, the echoes of people crying out from their windows for help. With the Omicron variant surging here, China is tightening its strict zero COVID rules to contain what is now the country's worst outbreak ever. Tens of thousands of asymptomatic people being corralled into mass quarantine centers. In some cases, children have been separated from their parents, triggering public outcry. American Josh Vaughn got swept up in the dragnet. He's trying to keep his business going from a hospital.
This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
2 years into the pandemic, there is no easing up on zero COVID here. Robots patrol some streets, reminding people to wear masks.
Here in Beijing, even when there's one case, an entire neighborhood is blocked off. You can see deliveries are passed through a window.
In Shanghai, drones tell people to stay home. Control your soul's desire for freedom, it says, as more cities double down with restrictions.
The economy is taking a hit too. Shanghai is a major trade hub. The port is one of the biggest in the world, and there are hundreds of cargo ships that haven't been able to dock. Add to that factories have had to close down under zero COVID, and there are real concerns about the ripple effect this lockdown is going to have on the global supply chain.
Yeah.
Hoda?
All right, Janice Mackey-Frayer for us. Janice, thank you.
Much later.
Workers that would normally be weaving their way through the city are nowhere to be seen. Social media is full of cries for help and complaints about a lack of food. Some videos show unrest in neighborhoods where people are desperate to find food. And in one unverified video, people are even seen looting a supermarket. Authorities are scrambling to deliver supplies, but there are huge problems.
For delivering vegetables, some are getting their food early, some are getting it late. It has a big impact on people's lives.
Chin Yen Lei is a tomato farmer who works on the outskirts of the city. He's doing his part to try and help. He's moved out of his home and into a dorm at the industrial greenhouses where his company grows tomatoes. This is a video he shot on his phone of the room he's staying in.
We're understaffed at the moment and need to ensure we keep up production, so we start work early and work overtime for about 2 hours a day.
But reports say the biggest hurdle in the delivery of goods is at the last mile. Many delivery workers and other supply personnel remain under lockdown themselves. The challenge is in getting food from markets and warehouses to people's homes. The local government is now trying to mobilize delivery workers to get back to work, as long as there aren't any positive cases within their residential compounds. The bottlenecks could pose a serious problem to the government.